Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Think Tank Sports. Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Check us out on the socials, Facebook, Twitter, and the IG. And let's see, listen to us on Anchor, which is now Spotify for podcasters. So it will redirect you for the moment, or wherever you get your podcasts. We're out there on a bunch of those things. And watch us on YouTube as well. We are out there doing our thing. Mike is, he's got the sunglasses going tonight for those of you that are not watching us on YouTube. Mike's got some pink eye going on there. And so it's two pieces here. One, it hurts his eyes. Two, it hurts our eyes. So sunglasses is where it's at. So we're back. We've got NBA talk. We've got, which is the NBA has just really just been fabulous. I mean, I've been paying more attention the last few weeks, but it's really been quite amazing the last few weeks. And NCAA basketball, we are into conference tournament time. We're recording here Friday, March 10th, and 2 days from now, the NCAA tournament brackets will be announced. March Madness will begin. Everybody will gamble way more than they normally do, and work productivity will creep to all-time lows and all of those things. But, you know, here's me, no sunglasses. What about the guy in sunglasses? Mike, how the heck are you besides your eyes?
Some are using the word hero for my performance tonight in anticipation of my performance tonight on this podcast. I wouldn't personally use the word hero, Dave, but some do.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it plays out and see if you can please those of folks that were putting you up on the pedestal of hero.
Lying to me. Dave, what a great time of year we got here for sports. You know, the NBA's getting geared up for playoffs, the NCAA tournaments upon us, baseball spring training, we got XFL going crazy, we got the fifth major in golf teed off today. There's just a lot of or yesterday, right? NFL hot stove. If you check us out on Twitter or any of the other social, there's a lot of traffic and polls about the quarterbacks in the NFL right now. But Dave, NBA and NCAA folks, yes, I know you're wondering. We are going to get to the coaches movement in the college basketball. Has been a lot lately.
Oh my gosh, ridiculous. Like 8 of them in the last 3 days.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Have to honor the legend, the long time, just high quality effort by Patrick Ewing leaving Boston or leaving Georgetown and mutually parting ways. And we're going to do a little career retrospective on him. And then we might get into a little Mike Bray leaving Notre Dame.
Yep. Mike Bray. Yep. All-time winningest coach in Notre Dame history.
You should probably touch on, David.
The guy at St. John's.
Lou Carnesecca?
No.
Chris Mullin.
Mike? No. Chris Mullin's gone too. I swear that I heard his name's Mike Joseph, maybe?
Yeah, it's a very generic name, like Mike Brown.
Yeah.
So
rumors that Rick Pitino may end up at St. John's because he's at Iona right now and doing very well. And Iona, St. John's, not quite just down the road, not quite Tobacco Road, but they're close by. So we'll see if the 70-year-old Rick Pitino ends up coaching games once again as the home team in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, that would be very, very interesting. And I'd be happy to get him out of the MAC, and my Siena Saints here, our local team, can get rid of him. That would be nice. Of course, I'm kidding. We're going to do not an extensive or super deep, but a detailed look at Jim Boeheim's career in Syracuse and all that he's done for the program and the area. And, we do have, obviously, Dave is a big fan. I'm a fan from more of a distance, but we'll get into that, Dave. Let's, like you said, the NBA, but crazy good.
Oh boy!
And then some crazy storylines too. So I don't know where you want to start. I don't know. I have a thought, but I'll let you drive this portion.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting. What was it? Oh, today's Friday.
It is all day.
Was it Tuesday night or Wednesday night? With Kevin Durant, his big home debut in Phoenix.
That's exactly where I wanted to start.
Goes in for the layup.
Yeah.
Ankle twisted, out 2 to 3 weeks.
Sniper got him.
Yeah.
He's going up.
Am I glad I talked to that guy. And the same night, Luka Doncic, has got like this quad
strain, I think they're calling
it. So he's
also
out. They don't think he's going to miss a ton of time, but both of these things come up the same night, which is just so.
With Luka, Dave, real quick.
Yeah.
Also that night picked up his 16th technical foul. So,
so he gets suspended
for a game, and if he keeps going, it gets worse. So
raise your hand if you thought Luka Doncic could have 16 technicals in a year.
No,
that's very surprising.
A lot, but yeah, I was surprised.
But technicals that definitely seems like a lot, but clearly there it is.
Right. And then last night, Draymond Green and Dylan Brooks got into it. But let's keep going on KD real quick.
Yeah, the guy, and look at, he's one of the best players of all time when he's healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But geez, you see the video. I mean, this could happen to anybody. Pickup. This is not like specific to the NBA. This is pickup basketball. You're just, in your backyard and your driveway, just shooting by yourself. This could definitely happen to anybody.
If you have a minute later, folks, or hit pause now and come back, Google Tom Segura. He's a comedian.
He's hilarious, Tom Segura.
He had a horrific basketball accident about 3 years ago. Same thing as KD. Went up on, nobody around him.
Uncontested. If you will.
Of course, he's playing, men's 40-year-old pickup basketball. And he blew out his knee and shoulder and concussed himself. So it's out there, on YouTube. So check that out.
He's very funny, Tom Segura.
He is very funny. He does a podcast with his wife and stuff too.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
Show, yeah, lest you go there and think we recommended him and it's going to be clean and Christian. It's neither. So
nope. We've just said he's funny. That's what we said. So yeah, the injuries continue to mount. We've discussed the Lakers and the issues with LeBron being out for a bunch of games. And so, the NBA is just loaded with superstars. And these big superstars go out. I mean, James Harden was out the other night.
Yeah.
Not that I consider him to be a big superstar anymore. I just consider him to be.
Well, I was going to ask you that about KD. That was good. KD, the moment he blew out his Achilles for Golden State, was that it? Like, was that the end of peak KD? Were we going to look back at his career and say, we can clearly statistically see that was it? That was the downfall? Or will he ever play a relatively healthy full season for any team?
Wow. That is a very fair question.
And we can't answer, with any certainty, but we can speculate, buddy.
No, we certainly can speculate. I mean, you look at, the other teams that he's been on, the injuries, the inconsistencies, you look at with the Nets, with him and Kyrie and James Harden. I don't, boy, I don't know how. I think it's difficult to argue that you're going to see him play a full season
I agree.
again because he's just hurt. I
Yeah.
mean, this is the second time he was out. He gets traded to Phoenix from the Nets, and he's hurt when he gets traded. So he's out. He does all the extra practice, and everything looks great. And he comes in and plays very well. I mean, look, he's had some great games in the short time in Phoenix, but on the road, and then he gets ready for the home game, and
Yeah. Blows it right out.
yeah,
Speaking of the Nets, huge comeback last night. Was it last night or the night before? Down 27 points. Come back, and they're the fourth team ever, Dave.
yeah. It was Wednesday night.
To trail by 27 and win by double digits. So 37-point or more swing in the game. So, not exactly giving up on the season. We knew they were going to try hard. We just don't have the roster to compete ultimately, at least in my opinion.
This is, oh no, wait. Yeah, no, it was Tuesday night.
Was
this is against the Rockets?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Rockets are
terrible.
I mean,
you wonder how they got up 27.
15 and 50. What?
Oh. Ouch. I mean, say what? What?
Yeah. I mean, they're a really, really bad team. I mean, comebacks are great, and we've seen a whole bunch of them this year in the NBA. A ton of it is, I think, just how offensive, and I don't mean in a bad way, offensive the league is. So I guess it's not all that surprising, but
yeah, we've seen some really, out there comebacks. Obviously I'm thinking the double overtime game with the Kings and the Clips, and just been some crazy scoring things this season. It seems like defense is more optional this year than it's been probably in the history of the league, to the point where I wonder if the league is going to have to do something about it, or they want to keep cultivating this type of play.
Yeah, I mean, even just looking last night, Indiana scores 134, Utah. So Indiana and the Rockets, 134, 125. Utah, 131, 124 over Orlando. Memphis gets 131. Milwaukee, 118. Sacramento, 122, which is right on their average, by the way, for the Sacramento Queens. Yeah, I mean, there's, Phoenix scores 132 the night before. Yeah, the league is very, very offense focused. And I mean, I think that's okay. But like you say, what is the NBA going to do? Is there going to be some sort of balance
adjustment, right? I mean,
back out? But look, I mean, the offensive, the high flying, I shouldn't say high flying because so much of it is one-on-one, but the high scoring, I mean, that is going to drive ratings and fans and everything else. So I'm not so sure that that's going to change all that quickly.
No, that's a good point. They've kind of wanted this to get to this point. I just fear it's going to get to the point of ridiculousness, and then something's got to be done. So what else is going on here with the NBA, buddy? What you got? You want to go through some teams or
players? I mean, your Celtics, I think they've struggled a little bit. They're in a. I mean, they're 5-5 in their last 10. They've had some good games, some not so good games. And this is kind of that time. It's the equivalent of February in NCAA basketball where the big teams, get upset. I think the challenge is, at the same time, and they're only 2.5 games back, Mike, of the Bucks, but the Bucks are are playing as well as anybody right now.
Yeah.
And won 3 in a row, 9 of their last 10. That's the only challenge is, the Celtics with a little bit of a slide. Again, only 2.5 games, but
an important 2.5 games.
Right. And if you start to look at it and you go, and now the Sixers, a team that, last week we were like, well, they're okay. They're only 2 games back of the Celtics. And, for the Celtics to fall back to the 3 seed.
Yeah. Probably don't want that.
I mean, I guess it's not the worst. If they go to the 4, then they would end up playing the Bucks in this conference semifinals instead of the final. So I guess 2 or 3, not horrible for your Celtics, but you'd want them in the 2 spot. And I think that they'll bounce back. I mean, they're just going through a tough spot, and they just need to, did I not read that Williams is hurt?
Yeah.
And that's a big blow, that around this time last year he got hurt, and the Celtics were cruising and
a little longer in the 2s. Marcus Smart, so he throws himself around so much. He's always going to be sore. Like you said, the classic teams heading for a deep playoff run have a little lull this time of year in their season. So I'm not ultimately worried about it. The loss to the Knicks in double overtime, I was fine with. It was a fun game. Everyone made plays, seemed good. The Cavaliers loss, that was bad. I don't know if you caught this at the end of the game. Donovan Mitchell had some free throws to 2 free throws down by 1, and Grant Williams from the Celtics got right in his ear and was talking trash, trying to intimidate him, and Spider, of course, hits both of them. And then Grant Williams gets fouled.
Yeah, I was going to say, what happens next?
And with, I think, 2 seconds or less. I was going to
say under 10 for sure.
Yeah. He breaks them both, and the Celtics lose.
Well. Hold on. Let's make sure we get the whole picture. Because Grant Williams says, I'm going to make both.
Yes.
I'm going to make both. And he misses both.
Did not. So I love his defense and his tenacity, but he's just not the player that should be doing those kinds of trash talking. You know, if Tatum, which is not in his nature, I guess Marcus Smart is the only one on the team that I think that would be acceptable from. Brown and Tatum don't act like that. It's just not their thing. Right. But Grant Williams, easy big fella.
Easy big fella.
But so that game, the Cavs game, bothered me more than the Knicks game. Dave, the Knicks are fun. The Knicks are good. They're going to be heard from.
Yeah. And Brunson's going to be back.
Right.
There was a little concern there because he's missed a couple of games with a sore foot. And so I think what's interesting is when there's a more significant injury, they'll say, oh, it's an Achilles, it's a toe, it's a this sore foot. Now, whether they're covering it up, that could be a possibility. I took it more to be, well, it's not a significant injury. And he's missed a couple of games, but he's going to be back for the game Saturday in LA against the Clippers. So this is welcome news for Knicks fans. There was a lot of talk about Jalen Brunson when they traded for him and all of these things, and wondering, oh, he's not going to be that good for them and blah blah blah. He's been just great for the Knicks, and I think could you say for the first time in 20 years the Knicks made a good player move?
That and Josh Hart,
and Josh Hart is the other one. We talked about him last week. Just a great move that is really paying dividends. And the Knicks The Knicks are
I
fun.
love Mitchell Robinson's athleticism in the middle.
Hmm.
And Emmanuel Quickly, who's been, guard off the bench, has had a heck of a season for them too. But I think the most important part is some leadership and pressure off of Julius Randle. He can
Yes.
go out and play his game. He doesn't have to worry about, being a team leader or an icon in New York and all the stuff, that he wanted to be. He doesn't need to do that for this team. They got
Yep.
veterans and they're in good shape. So they'll be heard from. It's very interesting to me. That Knicks team. Who else, buddy?
Oh, I don't know. Like East West. I mean, the Cavs just kind of continue to
They're
do
going to
their
be,
thing, and
yeah.
they're at number 4. I mean, you could have a Cavs Knicks first round playoff series.
What do you? I'm curious what you think about the Nets. Obviously, after KD and Kyrie leave, a talent vacuum was created for sure.
Yeah,
But
I
they're
mean,
not terrible.
no, they're not terrible.
Bridges and Dinwiddie in the back court.
They definitely they have some players. Could they win a playoff series? Sure. If they're right now, they would be matched up against the Sixers. I think they would be a heavy underdog against the Sixers. Could I see them winning that series? Not really.
No.
Not
without a major injury or controversy.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I mean, they're there. They have talent, but
okay. Just curious.
Big picture. I don't think they're doing much.
No, they really need to get like a superstar, like a KD or something.
Yeah. Just for fun, Mike, the Detroit Pistons, the Houston Rockets, and the San Antonio Spurs.
Okay.
3 teams that have been eliminated from playoff contention.
I mean,
that's really all you need to say. When we know the Spurs lost 16 in a row earlier this year. The Pistons right now have lost 10 in a row. We talked about how bad the Rockets are. I just think it's interesting. You got 3 teams eliminated already.
The Pistons, Cade Cunningham has been hurt all year. I get it.
Yep.
But, they let Jeremy Grant walk. And I just don't understand what they've been doing over the last decade.
Nope. Neither do they.
Neither do they, right. So, so NBA gearing up towards the playoffs here. You're going to see benches shortened and, significant concentration on getting healthy and getting your rotation set and all that stuff to start the second season of the NBA. Anything else there on the NBA, buddy?
Well, I mean, geez, did we talk last week about Ja Morant?
It was just.
I don't think anything had happened yet.
Either way, talk about
Ja Morant, folks. You can say what you want. They don't find any evidence to put any charges forward against him after they lose to the Nuggets last week. Right, because we were talking about they were getting ready to play the Nuggets.
Right.
They lose. Ja Morant does an Instagram live video and pulls out what looks like a handgun. They don't find any evidence.
Let me stop you there for a second, because you just said something that bothers me, not from you saying it. Looks like a handgun, and I see everywhere allegedly had a gun.
Yeah.
Dude had a gun. I mean, did you see the video? He had a gun.
Yeah.
Now, it was a wimpy gun, and, might not be bragging about that.
Yeah.
Of course, shouldn't be carrying a gun to the club in Denver to begin with. But it's interesting. Are you familiar with the movie 8 Mile with Eminem?
Mm-hmm.
So Ja Morant's like Papa Doc. He's putting out this image of a thug. I'm carrying a gun. I talk trash. I'm a tough guy. And he really came, from a good upbringing, and he's a nice kid, and his
Yes.
parents are married, and all those things that they used in that movie to flip the script on Papa Doc. That's
Mhm.
what he's doing it to himself, though. He just needs to
Yeah.
grow up, and I think this might have got his attention enough. He seems very contrite and very serious about wanting to change from that image. And not just because of the financial penalties that could come if he keeps going down that path, or
Yeah.
losing whatever prestige he has and all of that, but he just wants to be a good person. So I've actually flipped on him, as you can tell, because that's not what I was saying last week. Or
No. So I think it's challenging. He's one of those young faces of the league, and you get into these things that are going on, and I think it makes it challenging for
and
folks.
Clearly it's a different culture that we don't understand.
Yep. So there's all of those pieces. So he's out a couple more games. Grizzlies 5-5 in their last 10. Tied with the Sacramento Queens for the number 3 spot in the West. The
Dylan Brooks
Suns
continues to be a joke, and
Yeah.
He's like, who was my boy that blew in LeBron's ear?
Stevenson.
Yeah. He's heading that way. Not a lot of accomplishment, not getting it done, and just being generally a jackass. But
Yep.
I digress.
Yep. The Clippers are going to clip. They're 4-6 in their last 10 in the 5 spot. Warriors,
clipping,
Timberwolves.
Yeah.
So you just have it is just astounding to me that from 5. Let's go 5 through 13.
Okay.
From the 5 seed to the 13 seed in the West, they are separated by a whopping 3 games.
Yeah. Yeah.
3 games.
You could be anywhere between home court advantage to a play-in game, depending on
to not making the playoffs at all.
Right. Good point.
So it's interesting, the Lakers, my Lakers are playing good, 7-3 in their last 10. They've won 2 in a row. They played the Grizzlies without Ja Morant the other night and won. We'll take the win, but geez, you'd like to, play the best, beat the best kind of thing. Anthony Davis is just playing out of his mind. And the Lakers are playing good right now. 32.
I threw the Ewing theory out there last week, and I think it's right now that's the way it is. Not that you would ever not want LeBron on your team, of course.
No, but I've watched them. They are more fluid. The ball moves. Everybody's involved. They get it around to AD, and which they would do with LeBron anyway. But just lots of players involved and good ball movement, and have to feel good there.
Your boy LeBron, speaking of which, was about 3 red wines deep the other night and got on Twitter and talking about Bronny, and he said something like, my boy Bronny better than most of these cats I'm watching on League Pass.
Oh boy.
Poop is lightweight hilarious. That's what he said. Lightweight hilarious. Yeah. So, I mean, how do you think his, fellow NBA players feel he's already calling his son better than a lot of those cats, quote unquote? Yeah.
I mean, can any of them relate to the father-son dynamic? They're probably not at that level. Are they thinking that deep about it? I highly doubt it.
No,
I highly doubt it. And I'm sure they're not happy about it.
Right. I just feel like LeBron's setting up Bronny for like posterized dunks in his face and trash talking, you know. But if he can't handle that, he can't be in the NBA anyway.
Yep.
So be
True,
very
true that.
interesting to see what he does. Bronny, I mean, has moved up to a top 10 prospect. I heard one person say that he's a 4-star recruit with a 5-star name, and that makes sense to me.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah, 4-star recruits are quite often, you know, very good and NBA All Stars. So
Yeah.
he could get there. All right, buddy. What else?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just continue to have great games in the NBA. We've talked a bunch about that. It's an exciting time. You got, of course, you have no Ja Morant, but you have the Mavericks at the Grizzlies tomorrow. That should be a pretty good matchup.
So what's weird, because we have March Madness upon us in the NCAA, conference tournaments this week and the big dance next week. The NBA is kind of gonna, for 10 days, be put on the back burner and percolate. And when we get back to it, I mean, you and I will be watching because that's what we do. If we had lives, we would let people know.
But yeah, you get back to it, and it's like a week and a half, 2 weeks left.
Right. So you're going to get a whole different level of intensity, and it's going to be like, whoa, it wasn't like this 2 weeks ago. But that happens every year.
Just nobody's watching.
Right. All right, Dave. Let's get to NCAA basketball. A couple of things before we talk about Coach Boeheim. We got the conference tournaments going here, and it's been a fun week of tuning in during the day for me and seeing some of these games leading up to the weekend, and some of the automatic bids, and these smaller teams. There hasn't been, if I'm not mistaken, any of these small leagues where the number 1 seed lost and a lower seed got the automatic bid that I've seen. It's pretty much chalky.
I don't think that has happened really anywhere, which is interesting because there's usually one or two, and if it hasn't happened by now, it's not going to, because those teams have all lost at this point.
Right, exactly. The piece of trash Alabama Crimson Tide have been actually struggling since the Brandon Miller murder that he partook in. I guess that's probably too harsh. The gun he delivered to the murder.
Wait. I mean, a murder happened. He was involved in some levels. Yeah.
But anyway, so you remember the first game after that whole story broke, Brandon Miller came out, had a huge game, superhuman, and they barely won. And they've won a few, but they're certainly not as good as they were before the incident. I think the rest of the team, oddly enough, has been rattled and upset. And Brandon Miller and Nate Oates are just, when you don't have a moral compass, it's easy to just keep going on as you have been. And the rest of the team, though, seems a little bit shook, in my opinion. So I don't know that they're going to have, a deep run. Of course, everything's always preferenced with, we'll see what their draw is in the tournament. But, I think they're struggling. I don't know if you've seen any of them, buddy. Or
I haven't seen a lot. I'm looking at today, and they certainly did not struggle today.
Oh, no, I didn't see
up 20 against Mississippi State at the half, ended up winning going away 72-49. But that's one game they have struggled a bit. I mean, they're going to be, they're number 4. If they win the SEC, they're very likely to be a number 1 seed.
Right.
And then
who were your? Go ahead.
Then you're just going to wait and see what happens as far as, again, their draw. I mean, for the most part, the 1 seeds win, but then who is their draw in the 8-9 game?
Right. Exactly.
Which, in the last
If it's a
5-10 years,
with
the
some
8-9
shooting,
games,
yeah.
those have been difficult teams.
Listen, if they got to play College of Charleston or one of these mid majors that's had a huge season, that's one thing. But 8-9, you're talking about a power conference, that a team that's had a good year but not great, probably. More likely. So that'll be, like you said, very interesting. Who are your 4 number 1 seeds right now?
Well, I mean, I think if Alabama wins out, they're one. Certainly Houston is one. And I think you got to go Kansas and UCLA.
So Purdue, who spent a lot of time at number 1 all season, has, the monster in the middle, and in Zach Edey, is going to be on the 2 line.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I was just playing devil's advocate.
I think so.
There,
I mean, I think,
right.
The Big Ten is a little bit down. Certainly
Right.
Purdue has had a very good year right now at 27-5 after their win today against a game Rutgers team that has certainly had some big wins this year. But I mean, UCLA is 28-4. They're best in the West. Of course, Alabama 27-5. Houston's, let's see now, 30-2. 30-2.
Yeah.
They're
So
not gonna face any in the
they're going to be the
AAC.
one overall.
Yeah, they're not going to face any competition there. So,
right. So,
yeah,
Houston, like you said, AAC, so down competition compared to everyone else, has had a couple of good seasons in a row, but they're vulnerable because they just haven't played at a level commensurate to what the tournament's going to show them. UCLA, they lost their 6-man best defender. The depth is a little bit compromised, but I love, their lineup. I love their coach, whose name I can't think of right now. I can picture him. Bald guy, a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah, the guy that was at Cincinnati.
Yeah. Him.
Oh my gosh, why can't Mick Cronin?
There you go.
There it is.
Yep. Kansas, to me, buddy, is the just sleeping giant number 1 seed. I think could just blow everybody away. They replaced their talent from last year 1 for 1. It's like almost clones. It's crazy. And then Alabama, I think is not only flawed but a piece of trash. Purdue, I think, is a 1-man show, no guards. My point in all of this is 4 or 5 number 1 seeds all have some flaws that are almost glaring, and in other seasons they'd be 2s or 3s. So Kansas is probably the only one of the top 5 that I would say would be a traditional number 1 in other seasons. So. All right, buddy. Jim Boeheim, 47 years. I was born in 1971. So not all of my life he's been the coach, but most of it. You said the previous coach's name at Syracuse last week, and I can't remember.
Roy Danforth.
Roy Danforth.
Yes, Boeheim was an assistant there under Danforth. They went to the Final Four in 75. Yeah.
All right. Well, so yeah, if you would, for those of you that don't know, and maybe have heard me call Dave Double Dip Dave, Dave has 2 degrees from Syracuse University. Family in previous generations have graduated from there, right?
Yep.
Your sister?
my
don't
sister,
remember.
my brother-in-law, my brother, my brother's wife, my father, and my one of my nephews is currently a sophomore there now. Shout out to Logan. Logan, I know you're not listening, but if you were, there's your shout out.
Come on, Logan.
Come on, Logan. Get it together.
So the point is, you're interwoven in the fabric of Syracuse University for sure. Your family's name is definitely on one of the stitches. So give us the career retrospective for Coach Boeheim, but also, if you would, just your personal, some highlights of his career and moments that impacted you.
Yeah. I mean, this,
I know it's a broad question.
Yeah, no, it's a broad question. And I
leeway.
think, and it's challenging because, you've got now 9. So with the ending of this season, 9 straight years where Syracuse has lost 10 or more games. That's a real struggle. I mean, that is, that's a mark of a team that's not very good. Now, they had a Final Four run in that in 2016, where they were part of the first 4 and, won through and had the great, comeback against Virginia and got to the Final Four and then lost to North Carolina.
Right.
It hasn't been good. And Coach Boeheim today in his press conference referenced that, said, the last couple of years have been difficult.
Yep. And we all want our legends to go out on a high.
Yeah. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it's rare.
Yeah, it is very rare. You do the, who went out on top? Well, John Elway.
Right. And the list ends there.
Right. I mean, it's just very, very difficult. And, Ray Bork, right, in hockey, right? Oh, okay. He gets the Stanley Cup in his last season in Colorado and not in Boston. So those pieces are challenging.
Sure.
I think big picture, Boeheim built the program. He said today that the program's not him, it's not the players, it's the fans. And I totally get it. That the fans certainly help, but let's be honest, Boeheim was there. He got the recruits. He happened to be at a, great point where they moved from Manley Fieldhouse to the Dome, and just, took off the birth of the Big East, and that just elevated everything. He's been the face of the university for 40, some odd years. And that's just amazing. And going to be, almost, and John Wildhack, the athletic director, said this today, that virtually impossible to replace and repeat based on the number of years and wins and everything else. That being said, definitely some amazing moments, and obviously for so many of us, the highlight of the 2003 national championship and being back in New Orleans, where Syracuse had, gotten beat in 1987 with the Keith Smart shot against Indiana. Retribution there, and all of the good feels, and all the former players were there. And so, that's tremendous. But for me, and I like that moment. I do. I mean, it's definitely a highlight. There's some huge moments. As I was looking back over the last few days, Syracuse played Georgetown in February of 1985. Georgetown, at the height of their power, coming off of the national title in 84. Georgetown comes in, just a juggernaut, number 2 in the country. Syracuse number 10. And
so this Georgetown team is Patrick Ewing, David.
Yeah, this is Ewing's senior year. You got Reggie Williams and Michael Jackson and David Wingate. I mean, it's a dominating Georgetown team. and Syracuse takes it right down, and Pearl Washington comes down and hits a jumper with 6 seconds to go to give them the lead, and then Georgetown throws the ball away, and then Pearl gets some free throws, and they beat them. And they rush the court. Huge moment. And
this is at Manly, or
no, this was in the Dome, 1985. Okay. So that moment sticks out. This is also a game where early on, Patrick Ewing's at the foul line, and somebody throws an orange as he's getting ready to shoot the ball, and the orange hits the backboard, and they make an announcement, please don't do that, blah, blah, blah. So, just dripping with drama, the hated Hoyas, Pearl and Ewing and all of that.
Right. That was a moment for sure.
That was a huge moment.
So you're saying that's one that sticks out to you, or that's when you enjoyed? So 85.
That's February of 1985.
So you're 11.
Yes.
Just like peak college basketball fandom, like.
Yep.
As far as you're right in the perfect spot for that.
Oh yeah, there. Pearl, my favorite player, my first favorite player growing up. The 6 overtime game, obviously, in the Big East tournament against Connecticut. Just, what can you say? It's just unbelievable. And I mean, these are
tremendous. Yeah.
And I'm sure if I were to look back, lots of things that Coach Boeheim did in that game, different, strategies and whatnot. I mean, these games, though, more about the players, but somebody's got to get the players there, right? And that's where Coach Boeheim and the staff come in. But the 6 overtime game, completely and totally iconic. So let's see, that's an 80s game, a 2000s, early 2000s game. And then arguably, for me, it's there. It's one of the 2 or 3 greatest sporting events I ever saw. The first time Duke came into the Dome when Syracuse was a part of the ACC in 2014. Syracuse rolling and undefeated with a chance to move into number 1, and just a back and forth affair, Tyler Ennis and Jabari Parker for Duke. They hit this crazy.
Was it Reddick, or was he?
No, he was gone by then.
Yeah.
But you have, crazy 3 by Duke at the buzzer to send it to overtime. And, Syracuse wins, 91-89 in overtime. Just game had everything, back and forth, big shots, the whole bit. Just a tremendous, I put that right up there. Even though it's a regular season game, put that right up there with the Yankees, Mariners, game 2, 1995, 15
as
inning,
far as being
Jim
personally
home run, personally. Yeah. Two of the greatest sporting events I ever saw. As far as that goes.
Yeah.
The press conference today, Boeheim cleared up a lot of negative things that had been swirling for the last few days. Oh, people saying he got a raw deal. The university, shortchanged him. He said, no, none of those things happened.
Can you explain something to me while we're on this part of
I will
story?
do my best.
What was that all about yesterday after the game, where Boeheim was saying, "Oh, I gave my speech the other night. You just missed it, except for one person." And then the reporter asked him, "So are you saying you're retiring?" And he says, "Oh no, it's up to the school." Like, I don't understand all of that. Maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm not supposed to understand it, but
no.
Can you
and
give
I
us
think
some insight on that?
That's kind of what between him and the athletic director explained today. I mean, Boeheim said, look, John Wildhack and the chancellor, very busy schedules. He said, they have way more important jobs. They got way more things to do than I do. They just were having a difficult time connecting. And so John Wildhack said, this, they had conversations. The decision had been made. they just wanted to get something out there. And then, they had more conversation, and then you had the press conference today. So
Okay.
that's how it was explained. They asked, it sounded like they said, they had things in the works for a couple of months. Boeheim himself said, this year, very proud of the players, but that he said when they lost those 4 games, and just looked awful. And he said, I didn't coach well. Nothing went good for us. He said that was kind of the moment for him where he realized that was it. And it was time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I mean, it
was very confusing to me, his attitude and all of that. And I'll say, the one negative thing I'm going to say about Boeheim, I'll put it in here because it seems for the right spot. As a lifelong resident of Albany, New York, Albany and Syracuse, not that far away.
Yeah.
And the Albany sportscasters and newspaper writers at the time, radio personalities, Big Dork Sports with Roger Wyland and all of those people, Boeheim would just never gave them the time of day. He wouldn't do interviews. I mean, or very rarely, I guess. Always had an attitude with them. You would think just for appearances that having a decent relationship with the Albany press would have been something. Now, lately Albany's been a little more of a place for talent. The Capital District, the most famous recruit by Boeheim out of the Capital District was none other than Columbia High School's Craig Forth, who
did you call me triple dip Dave there because I went to Columbia High School?
Oh no.
Or triple scoop Dave or something?
I know you were there long before Forth was.
Right? Yeah, yes, I was. Yeah. Yes.
But I guess, I'd never understood that. Why not at least be cordial to the Albany press or
and
the area? He doesn't do a basketball camp. He doesn't do it's just so much goodwill, easy goodwill that could have been built.
Yeah, it's really a head scratcher because in the last few days, lots of comments. And actually in the press conference today, John Wildhack, who is an SU alum, referenced an interview that he had to do with Coach Boeheim for a class while he was at Syracuse, and how Boeheim said, you got 10 minutes and that's all you got. And they, and Wildhack said, I stayed to that. And afterwards he said, Boeheim said, hang around, watch practice, and talk to any of the players you'd like. So, and there's other examples that have been shared of just how, cordial he's been and open to that. So I don't have a good answer. I agree with you as somebody who grew up in Albany. They had, a couple of years where they played, Siena and Albany, and played some of those games in Albany, and, cause you had Craig Forth and on the team at the time.
A regional at the Knickerbocker Arena at the time. It was called whatever it is now, Pepsi MVP, I think it is arena now. They played,
when they went to the Final Four, they played the regional games there. Right. So I don't know. I don't have a good answer because I agree with you. Stoking the fires of that next big city.
Capital of New York, it just, I don't know.
Makes sense to me. Yeah. So I'm not really sure why.
I just didn't know if you had some insight, but let's get back to his Hall of Fame career. So
look, we've talked offline. There's definitely, some teams that should have done better. The 88 and 89 teams were as talented as any teams he's ever had. Neither one of them made the Final Four. The 88 team getting bounced by Rhode Island, the 89 team.
That was Cycli and Coleman and
Yeah, that was Cycley's
Um,
senior year, and I think
yeah,
we had talked about this a little bit last week,
yep,
because we were kind of sensing maybe this was going
teeing
to be
up,
the
yeah,
end. Um, so I think the tough part is he's had some immensely talented teams that didn't do well, but he also had some teams that were not as talented, the
right,
2013 and the 2016 teams
right,
that made Final Four runs.
right.
So I think some of that stuff balances out. Would you like to have seen him, get another national title? I think the 87 Indiana is a no-brainer. That's a game that they should have won.
Sure.
No doubt. The 96, look, playing against one of the most talented college teams of all time. And they were there. They were right there against
Oh yeah,
Kentucky.
yeah.
But I think you'd say the 87, they should have won that. So I'd like to see him with 2 national titles or 3 national titles. But he's got the one. Look, he's right
Like I
up
said last
there.
week, college basketball championships are not your average championship.
Yeah.
You cannot hold people accountable like you can, in other sports as far as counting championships because it's so
Yeah,
difficult. But
it
anyway,
is.
yeah,
He's right there. I mean, he's 1,000 wins and 35 NCAA tournaments and 5 Final Fours and the national championship. Look, he's one of the greatest of all time. That part is inarguable. Um, Again, I think a lot of folks are just going to say, "Gosh, the last few years just didn't go as well," and so it's when they look to the hope of Adrian Autry, who was asked by Brent Axe in the press conference today, and he said, "I think I'm speaking for everybody. Are we going to play man or are we going to play zone?"
Mhm.
And Autry said, "We're going to do whatever we need to do to win."
Beautiful. I'm sure that, especially the Brent Axe,
Yep,
was music to his ears.
yep. So straight on. They're in good hands with Autry. Boeheim said that today.
Yeah, I caught a lot of that press conference
He's
myself.
there. He's more than prepared to be a head coach. So is McNamara. So is Alan
Right.
Griffin, who are assistant coaches. We're in a good spot. It's just now, the buck stops with him, if you will, and now we got to see how that plays out. But look, Autry's been an assistant coach there for 12 years. He's got all the experience that he needs.
Right.
And so we're just going to wait and see. But Boeheim is, an icon, a legend. He's going to continue on with the team in some capacity. They haven't quite outlined all of the specifics of that yet, is what Jim said today. He's still going to be around, probably helping with fundraising, is what John Wildhack said today. But it's a sad day because he has been Syracuse basketball for the most of just about every Syracuse fan's lives.
Right.
That has followed and done and paid attention. So it's a challenge, but look, it had to end at some point, and
right.
I'm glad he doesn't hang on for a few more years. Would it have been nice to have some farewell
Success
kind
at
of
the end.
stuff and all of
Yeah.
that. Yeah, but that's not really Boeheim's style, and so not surprising.
I was surprised that he didn't go out last year with his 2 boys. That will always confound me. What
Yeah.
was the point of this season? He knew what they had in the cupboard. You know what I mean? He knew that this team was not headed for great shakes, and still he chose to come back. So that's very interesting to me. So let's talk real quick before we wrap it up. You mentioned all-time coaches. Give me a comp of who, either in college basketball history or any other sports history, Jim Boeheim compares to as a coach.
Hmm.
While you're thinking, and I think we should do this as an exercise, would be interesting. You ever see those tier builders they have online now, where people, like, they do a lot for NFL quarterbacks, and they'll put, Rodgers and Brady and whoever in tier A, and tier B is the next level down kind of thing. So you have a
Mhm.
group of people in tier A, a group in B, a group in C. So when I think about it in those terms, as far as Boeheim goes, is he in the top level tier with the Adolph Rupps and the John Woodens? No. Is he in the next level? Dean Smith, Coach K.
Well, Coach K is up there.
Um,
I mean, you're talking about
yeah.
the very
Oh,
top
Coach K might
is
be
Wooden,
in.
Coach K,
Okay. All right.
probably Bobby Knight, Adolph
Yeah.
Rupp, you know.
Yeah.
No, is he in
Okay.
the top 4? No. But when you
No.
go down to
Is he in the next level down?
that next level down, I mean, you look at, and I made a very quick list here.
Sure.
You know, Tom Izzo. Izzo hasn't coached long enough as far as getting wins, but when you think about the amount of success, Jim Calhoun at Connecticut, now Calhoun has 3 national titles. So there's a bit there. And you know, Boeheim's longtime rival, John Thompson.
Yeah. Yep.
One national
Absolutely.
title, tremendous amount of success, multiple Final Fours, one national title. I don't think anybody would say John Thompson was not a success at Georgetown. And John Thompson is another one who built the program at Georgetown that was nowhere until he got there.
Well, you think about their compatriots in the 80s and 90s with Thompson and Boeheim, but, you know, Patino at Providence and Carnesecca and Raleigh Massimino and, you know, all these just great names.
Yeah.
And guys that built programs from the ground up and then had tremendous battles and rivalries in the Big East that we grew up on. And so Boeheim was definitely uh, with Thompson, the 2 leaders of that pack,
Yep.
I would say. Now,
Mhm.
Calhoun's 3 championships, I don't know, Dave, if I would put him ahead of Boeheim. I would say they're still more equal.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. And
longevity, right. All of
there,
that.
but you know, you asked,
No, I know.
and so I think, you know, you could legit say top 20 for sure.
Yeah.
Probably top
For sure.
15, top
There's probably a lot of
10. Then I think,
Yeah.
you know,
We'd have to do some more digging on
we'd
that.
have to do some more digging there, but you
Yeah.
know, he's
Yeah.
in over the history of college basketball. He's one of the 20 greatest coaches of all time. I don't
Yeah,
think there's any
absolutely.
question about that.
And his career is over. And, you know, I guess over the past years, I've definitely given him a hard time. The unfortunate incident with the hitting of the young man in his car, uh, purely an accident.
Absolutely.
You know, just a horrible situation for that family and for the Boeheims. He's going to live with that the rest of his life. Other than that, you know, you can be critical of his X's and O's, but what a recruiter, Dave. If you've ever been to Syracuse University in the middle of the winter, to get young inner city African American gentlemen to go to central New York with those weather conditions and that lack of urban experience. Now, Syracuse is in a city, but it doesn't have, you know, an urban experience like a lot of major cities. It's not a major city, but it's a city.
Yep.
So to get the talent consistently for decades to go there, it's super impressive. And he gets a lot of criticism for the X's and O's, and I think early on in his career that was viable. He certainly has grown, has some tremendous coaching tree and assistants, so that needs to be respected as well. I think they can rename the 2-3 zone the Syracuse zone and just leave it at that. You know, although he played a modified 2-3, he wasn't. You know, he had his own rules and things that were obviously very effective. And in the
Mhm.
tournament, it was brilliant because you're seeing teams that they've never played you or
Yep.
very rarely play you, and then even rarer playing against that zone. So I really respect him and what he's done, and his name obviously will ring out in Central New York for generations to come. And I'm excited to see, what Autry can do. And I assume McNamara will have an even more increased role. I think
Mhm.
that's good. And the future in Syracuse is also bright. Um, Now, we're celebrating the past, rightfully so, but let's not forget, that the future um, is in good shape. He left the program with, a newly remodeled home court, modernized, he left the program in very good shape. He
Yep.
didn't run the string out and leave. So I give him a lot of credit for that as
Mhm.
well. So
Mhm.
that's my 2 cents. Anything else, buddy? Double dip? Want to double dip at home?
Nope. I just just all thanks. Look, I've grown up through all these years, the Big East and into the ACC, all the big players, the big games, the heartbreaking losses, the unbelievable wins. My life has gone up and down with Syracuse basketball for a good 30 plus years, and
Yeah,
it's been a great ride. Again, I agree with you. We're in a good spot. We need to see what Red Autry can do, but have the confidence that he will continue to do good things. And yeah, it's a
great.
wrap up to a great career for Coach Jim Boeheim. And we'll miss him. He's still going to be around as far as that goes. But folks, that is our podcast for tonight. A little bit of NBA and a lot of Jim Boeheim and a bunch of other things mixed in. We hope you enjoyed it. Definitely check us out on the socials. Check us out on whatever you're listening to us on podcast, and watch us on YouTube as we continue our journey here at Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen as we strive for 5. Have a great weekend, everybody.